Hi everyone. So my report is all about microbial pathogenesis. So the key points. Coach postulates general terms used in pathogenesis, virulence, factors and its examples, super antigen, infection and its type, mechanism of pathogenesis, transmission, adherence, and invasion and inflammation. So Coach postulates the organism must always be found in human with the infection disease but not found in healthy ones. The organism isolated from humans with the infectious disease and grown in pure culture. The organism isolate in pure culture must initiate disease when reinculated into susceptible animals. The organism should be re-isolated from experimentally infected animals. Postulated 3 and 4 are extremely important and definite proof of the role agent in human disease. However, this depends on the ability to develop animals models that resemble the human disease. In many cases, such models do not exist. General terms used in pathogenesis. A pathogen is a microorganism that is able to cause disease in a plant, animals, or insect. Pathogenicity is the ability to produce disease in a host organism. Microbes express their pathogenicity by means of their virulence. Virulence, a term which refers to the degree of pathogenicity of the microbes. Hence, the determinant of virulence of a pathogen are any of its genetic or biochemical or structural feature that enables it to produce disease in a host. Opportunistic pathogen, those that take advantage of certain situation, usually do not cause disease in healthy hosts, one with a healthy immune system and a compromised immune system, however, presents an opportunity for the pathogen infect. The parasites, an organism that grows, feeds, and is sheltered on or in a different organism while contributing nothing to the survival of its host. And obligate intracellular parasites cannot reproduce outside their host cell, meaning that the parasite reproduction is entirely reliant on intracellular resources. Viruses and some bacteria, chlamydia and rickettsia. Virulence factors. These are molecules expressed and secreted by bacteria, viruses, fungi, and protozoa that enable them to achieve the following: colonization of the niche in the host. This includes adhesion to cells. First is the immunoinvasion, invasion of the host immune response. Immunosuppression, inhibition to the host immune response. Entry into and exit out of the cells. If the pathogen is an intracellular one, pathogens possess a wide array of virulence factors. Some are intrinsic to the bacteria. Example is the capsules and endotoxins, whereas others are obtained from plasmids. Example, some toxins. So example of the virulence factors. Example of the virulence factors for Staphylococcus aureus are hyaluronidase, protease, coagulase, lipases, deoxyribonucleases, and enterotoxins. Some examples of virulence factors for Streptococcus pyogenes are the M protein, echoic acid, hyaluronic acid capsules, invasins, such as hyaluronidase, hyalo, hyaluronidase, and streptolysins and exotoxins, adhesion factors, extracellular enzymes, toxins, and anti-phagocytic factors. The superantigen. Superantigens or SOGs are a class of antigens which cause non-activation and massive cytokine release produced by pathogenic microbes including viruses, mycoplasma, and bacteria. First, as a defense mechanism against the immune system. Second, compared to a normal antigen included T cell response where 0.01 or 0.001% of the body's T cells are activated, capable of activating up to 20% of the body T cells. The anti-CD3 and anti-CD28 antibodies have also shown to be highly potent superantigens and can activate up to 100% of T cells. Bind to TCR and activate T cells. Second is the autoimmune-like responses. Third is a Urus toxin, shock syndrome toxin, espiogens, erythogenic toxin A or C. Types of infections. Communicable infection. An infection that can be transmitted from one individual to another, either directly by contact or indirectly by fomites and vectors. The asymptomatic infection. A disease is considered asymptomatic if a patient is a carrier for a disease or infection but experiences no symptoms. A condition might be asymptomatic if it fails to show the noticeable symptoms with which is usually associated, also called subclinical infection. The term clinically silent is also used. Next is the symptomatic infection. A disease is considered symptomatic if a patient is a carrier for a disease or infection and express symptoms. Example is the fever. Pandemic infection. Pandemic is an epidemic of infectious disease that is spreading through human population across a large region. For instance, multiple continents or even worldwide. Example, HIV. Epidemic infection. An epidemic occurs when new cases of uncertain disease in a given human population and during a given period. Example, dengue in Punjab. Endemic infection. Endemic infection prevalent in or restricted to a particular region, community, or group of people. Example, cholera. Next is the mechanism of bacterial pathogenesis. There are two broad qualities of pathogenic bacteria underlie the means by which they cause disease. First is the invasiveness. It is the ability to invade tissues. Encompasses mechanism for colonization or adherence and initial multiplications. Production of extracellular substances which facilitate invasion or invasions. Second is the toxigenesis. It is the ability to produce toxins. Bacteria may produce two types of toxins called the exotoxins and endotoxins. Exotoxins, these are released from bacterial cell and may act at tissue sites removed from the site of bacterial growth. And the endotoxins, these are cells-associated substance released from growing bacterial cell and cells that are released as a result of infective host defense. Example is the lysozyme or the activities of certain antibiotics. Example is penicillins and cephalosporins. Stages of pathogenesis. First is the exposure, adhesion, and invasion and inflammation. So exposure is an encounter with a potential pathogen is known as exposure or contact. That food we eat and the object we handle are all ways that we can come into contact with potential pathogens. An anatomic site through which pathogens can pass into host tissue is called a portal entry. A pathogen's or portal specificity is determined by the organism environmental adaptations and by the enzymes and toxins they secrete. Pathogens can also enter through a breach in the protective barriers of the skin and mucous membranes. Pathogens that enter the body in this way are said to enter by the parenteral route. In pregnant women, the placenta normally prevents microorganisms from passing from the mother to the fetus. However, a few pathogens are capable of crossing the blood placental barrier. Second is the adhesion. Adhesion is the tendency of dissimilar particles or surface to cling to one another. Cohesion refers to the tendency of similar or identical particles or surface to cling to one another. The forces that cause adhesion and cohesion can be divided into several types. Last is the invasion and the inflammation. The invasion of a host by a pathogen may added by the production of bacterial extracellular substances which act against the host by breaking down primary or secondary defenses of the body. Medical microbiologists refers to these substances as invasins. Most invasins are proteins or enzymes that act locally to damage host cells and or have the immediate effect of facilitating the growth and spread of the pathogen. The damage to the host as a result of this invasive activity may become part of the pathology of an infectious disease.